Welcome back to Aetheral Space 4.5.
That's right, guys. Do you remember what happened last time? Well, of course I do. Everyone was wondering why the lights were off, and they found out a bomb blew up the thing, and now Dragon and them are trying to get to their ship while the other people are getting to the escape pods. Why is this happening? Because the Supremacy attacked.
And then the Supremacy cruiser popped in, and shit.
And then everybody on board clapped, except for Mazman.
Dragon's like, Supremacy, I hate these guys.
These guys have been on my tail for years. Meanwhile,
they're after. They must be here for me.
Yeah. Meanwhile, they don't even give a shit about him. They're like, oh, sweet, free cruiser, free Night Fleet ship. We're gonna get a bonus. That would be a great interim chapter. It's just the pilots of the Supremacy ship pulling it, having a casual conversation. Just oh, dude, do you think we'll get a bonus? I can't wait to go see my spouse back on fucking the Supremacy. What's the Supremacy home planet called? I assume in your world there's capital planets, right?
Yeah.
How many planets there are? What's the capital planet of the Supremacy?
It is actually mentioned in the next few chapters, so we'll run into it before long, so I won't say now.
Oh, alright, then you don't have to answer that. Okay. Anyway, without further ado, let's read some Aetheral Space. That's what you guys are here for, right? Awesome.
Yeah.
Pathetic! Croaked the instructor, pacing back and forth across the hangar floor, looking at the group gathered before him. Truly pathetic! He was a nasty, crabby little man with sunken-in eyes and a suit jacket that was just slightly too small for him. Despite the comical appearance of the man and his childlike high-pitched voice, not one of the 7 hopefuls in front of him dared laugh for 2 simple reasons. 1, it would destroy their chances of becoming a special officer of the Supremacy, and 2, the instructor would kill them with ease. Daphne Halicourt tracked the instructor with her eyes as he is hopeful, the name of someone who's a soldier in training.
Well, these are people who it's what Muzazi and Marie were telling Noelle to do. Go try and be a special officer.
So this is so they're in trainings.
Mm. Well,
Daphne Halicourt. I see. Track the instructor with her eyes as he plays. I love how everything in the Supremacy is a competition, including being the leader. Track the instructor with her eyes as he paced in front of the massive holographic view screen. Do you think Supremacy people would be like, we don't need no participation trophies?
Exactly.
Millennial. It's all about winning! Some kid's like, Mom, I made you this present! It sucks! It's not good enough!
How lamentable. Just because he won the battle, he got cancelled.
No, does anyone get cancelled in the Supremacy? Cancelled for being soft-hearted?
Yeah. That's
the opposite for usually getting cancelled. It's wow, this guy was caught giving to charity. And then no one supports them anymore.
Well, if he's strong enough to give to charity, that's his right.
Oh, okay, never mind. I love how strength can be as vague as they need it to be.
If he has the money,
I was strong enough.
He owns the money.
I was strong enough to ask for money on the street. The hologram was displaying a blown-up image of the Unite Regent, the crippled ship they just latched onto. A huge section of the vessel was missing, and tiny dots that could have been debris or frozen corpses were spilling from the hole. Oh well, Daphne supposed, that was war. Times were, the instructor continued his lecture. The Commission had some standards. The Commission didn't accept trash like this. You, ugly girl, third from the right. Why do you want to be a special officer? Tell me now or I kill you. Ignoring both the insult and the threat. So I have a question real quick. How much of this is tough maggot military talk, and how much is legitimately I will kill you if you don't do what I say?
There's more of the latter than you'd expect.
Okay. Ignoring both the insult and the threat, Daphne stepped forward, hands clasped stoically behind her back. A loose strand of emerald hair hung over her face. Green hair girls? We have green hair girls in Aetheral Space?
You have all sort of hair.
Pog. Pog? Pog. But she didn't reach to correct it. She couldn't afford to show any discomfort or weakness in this kind of company. I wish to become a special officer for my own benefit and personal advancement, sir, she declared, staring straight forward. The instructor sniffed. And what would you do for that purpose? Anything, sir. The instructor grunted, somehow managing to look down his nose at her despite being shorter. Perhaps there's some hope for you trash after all. Back in line before I kill you. Daphne acquiesced, ignoring the glares of annoyance from the other hopefuls. She'd have made some enemies by being shown approval. The fact that the instructor had looked favorably upon her meant she could be a threat to their chances of becoming a special officer. Is murder legal in the Supremacy, by their logic?
If you're strong enough to get away with it. If you can beat all the guy... what is allowed and what is expected are different. So there's sort of some unwritten rules. Like if you
there's laws against things like stealing and murder, but if you're strong enough to get away from the police and stuff, then it's kind of like admired rather than seen as like scum of the earth. Right. So like it's illegal, but you're like admired and you're treated good for getting away with shit rather than like being treated as like evil.
Sort
of.
Like,
he was simply
there are limits.
Right. Still, she knew she had her allies, other special officer hopefuls that knew they had strength in numbers. Her eyes flicked around the group. One, I love everything's a list. One, the silent Nox twins. I'm not even making fun of you for this. I was literally about to say I kind of love how, from certain character perspectives, they view the world in a different way that's seen through the writing. And this one's like a list character. I actually really dig that. You've done it before with other characters. One, the silent Nox twins, clad in red robes with gray cyclopean helmets staring straight ahead. Singular braids of black hair trailed behind each of them like snake tails. Daphne knew she'd have no friendship with them. They'd snapped the neck of the last unfortunate who'd tried. Gara Reef, the pugnant brute, a giant of a man with glowing red hair and incandescently golden eyes. His absurd musculature made him so heavy he had to support his weight with his arms like some kind of gorilla, but behind that brute strength, Daphne knew, was the mind of a child. He had been easy to recruit for her team. Oberon, the humorless deserter. Daphne didn't know that much about them. They seemed young, their head barely reaching up to Daphne's chest, but the constant sly smile on their face suggested they weren't someone to be taken lightly. They had a bob of black hair so stiff it almost seemed like a helmet, and the black jacket and shorts they wore looked far too expensive for an actually devout humorist. This was a person who'd betray her. She could see that clearly. Darren Roche, the Supremacy Soldiers. Wait, are these all the people that are on her team, or she's just examining everyone and saying which ones are and aren't?
She's looking at everyone here.
Alright, everyone on the team. So the Nox twins are on her team, even though...
No, just looking at everyone in the room.
Oh, okay. Darren Roche, the Supremacy Soldier. He held a bulky plasma rifle in his hands, and his one good eye surveyed all before it with practiced precision. It was obvious the man was a true believer in the Supremacy. He'd insist on going it alone so as to not behave dishonorably. Viv Niles, the nervous wreck. Even her black hair seemed to shiver in fear as the instructor marched back and forth between them. She'd agreed to join up with Daphne just for the promise of protection Reef provided. Smirking, Daphne filled the list she'd just composed away in her archive. Oh, she's a cogitant! She liked formatting her thoughts in this way. It was more efficient, and it allowed you to dig up the information you needed more easily. "You've come here for one reason!" the instructor shouted, snapping Daphne out of her reverie. "To prove that you have what it takes! That you have the strength to be a fist of the Supremacy! To execute the will of the Supreme! Now is your chance to prove that!" He waved a hand, gesturing towards the Regent on the holographic screen. "This," he said, "is the Unite Regent, a flagship of the pathetic and morally degenerate regime known as the Unified Alliance of Planets, a petty gang of weaklings crowding together for protection. The very existence of such an abomination cannot be tolerated. Its collapse is inevitable, but that is for another day." Daphne did her best not to show any signs of boredom or potential disrespect, keeping her expression as neutral as possible. The last person who'd yawned during one of these lectures had ended up as a smear on the wall. Oh, I would be so fucked. I would be so fucked. Just burp in the middle of the speech.
Cadet, come here, time for a vibe check.
That's what it is, isn't it? The instructor stopped his pacing. "The Commission has a task for you," he declared. I regret giving him this voice. This is hurting my throat. "Rejoice! The captain of this ship, the Unite Regent, has committed incalculable crimes against the Supremacy and her people. In order to neutralize him, you will be dispatched onto the crippled ship. You may use any methods you feel are best to locate and kill him." Daphne's eyes flicked over to Niles, and she nodded almost imperceptibly. With that girl's unique talents, locating this captain would be easy as pie, and Reef would make killing him just as simple. But the instructor wasn't done yet. "The Supremacy is generous, however," he went on, "and so we do not ask you to perform this task for free. The one among you who lands the killing blow will become a special officer. All others, I will kill." Oh, she fucked herself now. A chill ran down Daphne's spine. See, here's the thing. I guess this is special officer, not like standard soldier training, right? Because I was going to say, if it was like standard soldier training was this, like, rigorous, like, they would run out of guys, right?
Yeah, that's very different. It's very different.
Because special officers are, like, special. A chill ran down Daphne's spine, and the slight smile. I can't believe Marie recommended no help for this program. A chill ran down Daphne's spine. I feel like Noelle would just be like, "You can't tell me what to do," and then she'd be a smear on the wall.
Actually, I hacked your pacemaker, so actually I'm strong.
I'm simply strong enough to hack you. That's not how hacking works, by the way.
It is just
Not everything's a fucking
power.
computer. A chill ran down Daphne's spine, and the slight smile that had been rising on her lips died instantly. She was still looking at Niles, and she could see the other girl putting a hand to her mouth as if she was going to vomit from stress. The plans she'd filed away in her archive were useless now. It was as if all the lists had been set aflame and crumbled away to nothing. Her mind grasped out for a new strategy and found nothing. This is no Dragon Hadrian, then. Well, the instructor grinned toothily, clearly satisfied with the reception he'd gotten. Your cutter pods are ready. Happy hunting! And, shaking with barely restrained fury, Daphne dug deep into her stores of resolve and came to a final conclusion. She had only 2 choices before her. 1, win and live. 2, lose and die. 3, join the crew because we need a green-haired girl. It needs to happen. Make it happen.
Darnell's acting up.
Got me fucked up. Skipper jumped through the window, smashing the glass, and landed on one knee in the middle of the mess hall. The few crew members that hadn't already evacuated stumbled away from him, crying out in surprise. A moment later, Ruth joined him, having climbed down the wall of the mess hall like a spider. The 2 of them looked around, taking the crimson-tinted chaos in. Food and personal belongings had been thrown down to the floor in the rush of the emergency, and the cleaning automatic stood immobile, powerless among the trash. "You see 'em," Skipper said, glancing through the frightened faces of the crew. "Bruno and Dragon." Next to him, Ruth shook her head. "They must have already moved. Shit!" The intercom pinged again, a new message coming through. "This is Captain Pierrot speaking," it said, voice hard. "I am amending my previous order. We are currently under attack by a supremacy craft. The Regent had been harpooned and is currently immobile. Enemy cutter pods have been launched towards us and are approaching quickly." With all these people, there's only like 7 hopefuls. Yeah, they must have like some sick powers. They must be Aether users. "All security personnel are instructed to arm themselves and defend the evacuation effort from hostiles. Over." Pierrot's voice showed no sign of caution or anxiety, simply firm resolve. This is what has happened, and this is what must happen in response. Skipper supposed that kind of self-insurance must work wonders in keeping the crew calm. In the distance, someone screamed. "Well," Skipper winced, "you can only soften the blow of war breaking out so much, I guess." That was what was happening, after all. They were still in UAP space, no matter how close to the border they might have been. If a supremacy craft had hopped over the border to launch this attack, that meant that the Cold War was officially over. And that meant anything could happen. We tracked them down and leave, Ruth," he said seriously. "Nothing else. Fast as we can. Yeah?" Ruth nodded, her face pale. The news had clearly affected her, too. Yeah. Oi! Oh! Is this who I think it is? Han, would you like to take over for him?
Oi!
A loud, tough voice cut through the tension the announcement had brought about.
What the fuck is wrong with you breaking a window? Walking through, huh? Thinking it is a door for your little feet?
Skipper raised an eyebrow as the strange red-haired man approached, gesticulating wildly. Sorry, pal. Didn't realize you were the window police.
Window police?
The man scoffed.
Masma is not this, and you can know Masma is not this. You are breaking the window and making glass bits go everywhere. What if a guy gets hurt, huh? You do not care about this guy? Serial killer! Oh my god!
Skipper exchanged glances with Ruth. He wasn't really sure why he was receiving this lecture, judging from appearances, this Masma being. He didn't seem to be part of the crew either. "We don't have time for this," Ruth hissed. "We need to find Dragon and Bruno." Masma cut in again. Ruth had kept her voice down to get and prevent him from hearing. Prevent him from hearing? To try and prevent him from hearing, but she was obviously no match for Masma.
Draco and Brown Man? He said, fists at his hips. Sorry, I got too into it.
He said, fists at his hips.
You look for these guys? Fuck! I want a bone to pick with them as well. Let's leave Masma in the middle of his dinner rudely and revolt to the farewell. I am in your party now, okay?
Yes! Skipper waved a robotic hand. No, buddy, that isn't really necessary.
What the fuck?
Masma cried.
You abandoned this guy to die? Actual demon? Masma cannot believe such dog shit morality. You are going to hell now.
I can't. Draco and Brown Man? Ruth said uncertainly. Do you mean Dragon and Bruno? Masma nodded.
Those are those guys.
Ruth exchanged another glance with Skipper and shrugged. Do you know where they went? Masma smirked smugly, raising a sharp eyebrow.
Does Masma know this thing? Do you want them to know the answer to this question? Yes, Masma knows everything. You will follow him now, okay? You are in my party.
Skipper and Ruth joined the party. And with that, he began to merrily walk forward, rudely pushing past Skipper as he headed towards one of the adjoining hallways. Really? Skipper chuckled, looking down at Ruth. You're sure about this? Again, Ruth shrugged. Better plan than nothing, I guess. Skipper wasn't so sure about that. Alright, you want to read this last bit?
Sure. You must be quite confident I won't kill you, the widow said, downing the antivirus in one gulp and slamming the glass back onto the table. I don't know if that's such a good idea, Captain Pirro. Pirro looked up from his script, eyes dark. The crimson lighting flooding the room and the shadows that stretched across his face made his visage seem almost like a blood-stained skull. Killing me wouldn't profit you right now, he said tersely. Besides, your old protege is still in my hands. Should I die, I've left instructions for him to be killed as well. The widow sniffed. You might be overestimating my sentiment, yes? Perhaps I do not care as much as you think. A wry smile crossed Pirro's lips. You've exposed yourself. Put yourself in enemy territory for him. Actions speak louder than words, Ambassador. The widow had no answer to that. Just as well. Pirro's gaze returned to his script. The situation certainly wasn't ideal. The region was disabled, its crew scattered, and they had barely a minute before that Supremacy Craft's boarding parties arrived. The Prince didn't seem to think the situation was impossible to manoeuvre around, however. Its guidance shifted subtly to accommodate the new circumstances. The path to Pirro's objective warping just slightly.
Oh, is it like some sort of divination power that lets him find the path to success?
Ooh. This was a detour, not a dead end.
This guy's a precog.
Pirro placed a hand against the wall and felt the distinct thump of objects striking against the hull. The cutter pods would have attached, slicing through the ship's surface and depositing their human payloads. The Prince's advice
That's such a supremacy type of device, like a ship that specifically dents into a ship and spits out people. That's so dope.
The Prince's advice was rarely wrong. Pirro spoke up. Widow, as I told you, if I die, Skipper dies. I suppose it's in your best interest, then, to make sure I survive? The widow narrowed her eyes, and for a moment Pirro thought she was about to leap over the table anyway and smash his head against the wall. Then words escaped as a hiss between her teeth. Very well. Pirro smiled softly. Moved away then.
She cares about Skipper! Can they get reunited? So this is the most based arc so far. We jump straight into the action. We get some supremacy lore going on. We have war breaking out. We have mysterious stand-alike powers and abilities that aren't explicitly Aether, like the Prince and this cold ability the Widow has. We have a parental figure for Skipper. We have a green-haired girl, finally, in our sci-fi.
We have Masma.
Honestly, and we have Masma, most of all. This is definitely the most banger arc in Aetheral Space yet. I'm gonna say it right now, this is where Aetheral Space will peak.
Oh my god.
Alright, but, the question for this week, let me think. Okay. If you guys were hopefuls in the Supremacy, do you think you would make it as a special officer, or do you think you would be a smear on the wall? Smile.
I wouldn't make it.
I wouldn't make it. I would not.
I'm not strong enough.
Me neither.
But that's why we don't live in brutal meritocracies.
Thank goodness. Am I right? Alright, everybody. Well, thanks for listening to Aetheral Space and us going on. We hope you continue to stay tuned. And if you're having a good time, go on Royal Road and leave a review.
Thank you. Please do. I'm preemptively thanking you.
Alright, you know what? They'd probably do it if you asked it like Masma would ask it.
Hey, you guy! What? You're not on Royal Road? You're not leaving the review? What the fuck? Bad man? Disappointment.
Alright. Bye, guys.
Bye.